Hello again, whiskey friends. It's Kelsey here in the Whiskey Riff Lounge. There we go. Welcome back tonight. We're going to be doing some Old Forester taste off. So we're going to go through 1910, 1915. I'll talk more about that in a minute. 1920 and 1924. Let's see which one that I prefer. I kind of drank through some of these a little while ago, probably about a month or so ago, but it's been a little while. So let's get into it tonight and stay with me and let's see who wins tonight. All right, guys, welcome back. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit like and subscribe. It does help us here at the channel. Also, if you're interested in joining our Patreon, there's a link to that in the description. So make sure that you guys check that out. We've got some awesome picks coming up to you. So let's get into tonight's flight. So we're going to be doing the Old Faithful here, 1910 versus... I know some of you have this and tasted this, and some of you may not, but this is the 1915. All right, now this is a mixture of 50-50 of 1910 and this bottle, 1920, and those combined 50%, 1910, 50%, 1920 to get that ratio of the 1915. And then the new one that just released this past year, the 1924, which is at 100 proof, and it's 10 years old. So it's their first age stated one over 4 years with the bottled and bond. So let's get into these. We're going to start with the 1910, 1915, 1920, and then 1924. We'll just go up in age on the bottles. So let's get into the nose. Cheers, whiskey friends. So, marshmallowy. Love that. So this is their double oaked, essentially, bourbon. It does have a little bit more spice than I remember, but this is my first whiskey of the night. So the nose comes off really with that wood char, like that burnt marshmallow, sweet oak, brown sugar, vanilla, all of those notes that you would expect from a double oaked whiskey. Now, the palate is super sweet up front. It does hit you with some rye spice towards the middle of the palate. It is 93 proof, in case you guys don't remember. It is kind of thin, but it is easy to drink. And I think that's the thing that most people love about this particular bottle is how easy that this thing drinks. I mean, it's crazy. 93 proof, full of flavor. There's nothing off-putting about this whiskey at all. Man, that nose is really nice. I could sit and smell that for a while. This hasn't been sent out too long, maybe about 5 minutes, but as it begins to open up, you get more of that wood char notes, but also that sweet, like burnt brown sugar. That is just the prevalent note for me. Let's go back in for taste number 2. Okay. Pretty consistent, real sweet up front. It doesn't have much of a finish, but at 93 proof, I don't expect it to have a huge finish at all, but it does have that lasting sweet burnt brown sugar and oak note that I love on this one. So still always one of my favorites. Now, this is in the 1915, so this is a 50% of the 1910, 50% of the 1920. Some guys that I know made some of these cool little labels that you can label your bottle as you make these. So let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So it is fun. I wish Old Forester did that. That'd make my life a lot easier than having to buy 2 bottles. But then again, you get 2 bottles of the 1915 when you do it. So. All right, so that same profile of the oak is there, but it's a little bit more confectionery sugar, which is from the, I think it's from the 1920. We'll get there in a minute and see what its nose is by itself. But You get a little bit more fruit note on this than you do definitely on the 1910. It's all like brown sugar and oak on the 1910. Whereas this one comes off a little bit more confectionery sugar like on the nose. A little cherry, a little fruit, but that sweet oak is still there. So let's give this a taste. Cheers. Interesting. So everything on this one hits kind of more mid palate. The finish is about the same. It's not super long compared to the 1910. However, I will say that that oak is present, almost as prevalent, but not quite, on the 1920, or excuse me, the 1915. Sorry, I'm getting all my numbers mixed up. Let's go in for taste two. Okay. A little bit more cherry, a little bit more oak in the mid palate on second sip. And then finally, at the end on the second sip, you get some more of that rye spice. I think I got more rye spice on the 1910 by itself than the combination of between the two. So we'll see how it goes on the 1920. So let's get into the nose on that one. Now, I do have to say, this is my first bottle in 1920 in probably about 2.5 years. I did have the old style label, and this is the first new label that I've had. So I've only taken a few pours out with some friends on this one. So you can kind of see it's still pretty full. So let's get into that. Cheers. Let's get into the nose. All right, this one's weird. It's really muted on the nose. That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. It's super, super uber, like muted compared to both of those previous whiskeys. That's crazy. I still get a little bit of that confectionery sugar. I think this is why I like the 1915 so much, because I feel like it brings out the best of both of these things and then combines them. So, not crazy about the nose on this. It's okay, but it's not like blowing me away. Let's see what the palette is like. I will say that the color on all these have been freaking fantastic. I mean, it is beautiful. Cheers, whiskey friends. Okay. Woo. Okay. That's a different kind of oak coming through on the 1920. Even at 115, like I think maybe that the 104 proof drank hotter than the 115, at least on the palate. That's crazy to me, but it's good. It's buttery. It's a little bit more velvety on the palate as far as the mouthfeel is concerned. Um, Still some oak, but it's a different oak profile than both of the others. That's why I say I think I like the 1915 the best so far, is because it takes all of those things that you love about the 1910, all of those things that you love about the 1920, and kind of mashes them together, blends together. Now, I will say that that 1915 set for almost a year before I opened it. So it's set blended for a while. Um, yeah, the 1920 is just starting to open up now, and it's been sitting out for almost 10 minutes. A little bit more vanilla forward than the other two. I'm just trying to pick out the differences. There's a lot of things that are similar. I'm just going to try to highlight the differences, though. Yeah, it's just the vanilla and the oak profile. It's really weird that those are the two things that are different. Okay. Yeah, it's almost weird that it has like a peanut note towards the end of it, which is, I don't know if it's my palate. Could be my palate. I'm just saying, not a huge fan compared to what I tasted so far. Let's go to 1924. Now, this one was a little controversial when it came out. Cheers. Um, let's talk through it. I think the thing that off-putted a lot of people about this bottle is the price point. I mean, it is part of the Whiskey Row series going forward, from my understanding, at 100 proof, but it's about $40 more. So I think that's kind of where I and a lot of the people were kind of like, what in the heck are you doing? Put this at $70 just with the others, even though it's age stated, $75, and let's go on. So this one does have a little bit of a muted nose as well. It kind of is more similar to the 1920 as far as the nose profile. This is 10 years at 100 proof. It's a little bit more perfumey, if that's kind of a good word to describe it, than the others. It's kind of got that perfumey, kind of almost a clovey type of a clove. Not clovey, that's not a word. Clove scent to it. Just on the outside edges of where you're like smelling. It's not like dead center of like what you're taking in, but that note is there. All right, enough chit chat. Let's get into it. Let's drink. Cheers. Okay. Maybe I changed my mind a little bit about this bottle after I've drank, that much of it. So, it is getting some air. It is getting much better than I first cracked. So I will say that. I'm not digging the nose as much. Now, there are more vanillas coming out after first sip than there was before. It's got a nice nose. Don't get me wrong. It's just not like, it's like not the 1910. The nose by far on all of these is the best on 1910. I mean, hands down, not even close. But this one's got a more depth to the fruit like that the 1920 had, but it also has a little bit more depth in the sweetness part of it, like the sugary part of it. All right, let's go in for sip 2, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Okay. Velvety. Love the mouthfeel on that thing more than any of the others. Nose goes to 1910. Palate goes to 1924. So that surprises me a little bit. If you guys haven't got into the Whiskey Row series, I would encourage you to taste some of them before you buy them. 1897 is probably their best bottled and bond product that I like. If you're going to buy one, I guess you should say, if you're going to buy 2 bottles, buy the 1910 and 1920 and blend them, dude. I'm telling you, for me, consistently, that is always a go-to pour that I love. I've gone through 1.5 bottles of these, so that's kind of where my heart lies. But I will say that the 1924 is improving. Now, when I first came out, I was not impressed with it. It is improving. That's the one thing that you need to do when you buy whiskey is don't give it just a clear rating right off the bat and then put it on your shelf and forget about it. Go back, revisit it, see what's changed, see what's gotten better, see what's gotten worse, or see if it stayed the same. Those are the things that are fun about whiskey. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We do stream on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello